It's a beautiful Sunday in Germany, and I'm taking you with me on an illegal activity that I'm about to do, throwing away my recycling glass. That was it. So, glass is actually recycled in Germany in these specific containers that can be found all across the city, but they actually have opening hours. All these kind of rules can be found across Germany, and there's even a Bureau of Order that enforces these kind of rules. For foreigners, that can be quite weird at the beginning, because often these rules just don't make any sense and are beyond what I would call reasonable. So in today's episode, I want to find out why Germans are so keen on the rules and order. We are Charlene and Phil, two curious observers on a trip around the world to look deeper into local customs and cultures. Welcome to We Wonder Why. So, Charlene, before we go on our trip through Latin America to explore other cultures, I thought why not explore an aspect of our own culture first? And the one that I was most interested in, because it comes up quite often when we talk to friends from other countries, is why rules and order are so embedded in German culture.
True.
So do you agree with the observation that rules and order are a big part of German culture, first of all?
Oh, I totally agree. I think it's part of myself. Like, I'm a rule-addicted weirdo. And so, yeah, definitely agree.
Yeah, I can see that a little bit. So do you have some examples of how you grew up with rules and order, or how that has an influence on you?
I definitely do. So, like, I very vividly remember there was one day where maybe I was like around 8, and my mom would print a copy of the law on child and youth welfare and put it on my wall in my room. And it's like a traffic light system. So it would tell you in green what is allowed, in yellow what is maybe debatable, and in red what is forbidden. And to be honest, I kind of liked that as a kid because I knew exactly in which cases I had a chance to get what I wanted and in which cases I shouldn't even ask my mom.
Okay.
So I don't know, that was like something that I definitely grew up with.
So, like, in addition to the rules there are anyways in Germany, there was additional like system in your house growing up.
Exactly. And I think for my mom it was also easy because she's like, it's not my decision. I didn't come up with that. That the state did. And that's what we all have to adhere to. I think for her as a mom, that must also have been so easy because she wasn't responsible for the nose. Yeah. So I think that's why she put it up there. And I found that smart.
So it's just about following the rules.
Following the rules, and that's, I guess, why I like project management and red, yellow, and green status reports today.
Yeah, I can see that. That explains a lot, actually.
Yes.
Yeah, but I actually got to this topic also quite recently when we had this rental home over Easter with some friends. And that was the most German thing I saw in a while, I think. Because when we came in, there were papers and papers laminated laying on the table.
All over the house. Everywhere you'd find a new paper.
With all of the rules of the house, which were a lot.
Yeah.
I remember one thing was that we have to first make our own bed. Like, there were only the sheets lying next to the bed and it wasn't made. So we had to do it ourselves, which is quite common, but still like...
It's like in school camp.
Yeah,
when
not very service-oriented.
No.
Not a nice feeling to get into a place like this. And then the weirdest thing was... with the dishwasher, we had to empty it also before leaving. Not only put all the dishes in and put it on, but we had to empty it.
Because otherwise you pay a fee.
Yeah, exactly. They had a whole catalog of fees.
Yeah, so
I think if you
true.
don't clean the barbecue, it was also a certain fee.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
For the whole journey, there was something for arriving, how you treat the house when you're there, and how you behave when you leave. Like, every step was planned through, so to say.
Only put, like, I think 2 trash bags and 1, like, dishwasher detergent for the whole stay. And we stayed there for, I think, 3-4 days.
With 6 people.
Yeah. So. And, like, the thing that really stayed into my mind was the Wi-Fi codes. So we were 6 people staying there for quite a while, and the Wi-Fi wasn't free. You had only 5 devices, I think, for free, and you had to enter a certain code that you could connect a device. So I think in the end we didn't even use the Wi-Fi because it was just too too much work to get
Yeah,
there.
it was an amazing example
Yeah.
of Germany, and I wonder how do people feel that travel Germany and enter there.
Yeah.
I think for us it was
That
already
must be
shocking.
a culture shock.
Yeah,
Even for us
exactly.
it was.
Yeah.
So we don't seem to be alone with this observation. And I actually did some research about why German culture is so connected with rules and order. And I actually found a ton of articles out there
So curious.
that research this topic. So do you have a guess before I start with some of the things I found out? Why is there such a strong focus on rules and order in Germany?
The thing I thought about first was the whole Nazi history, because what I know is that like they loved paperwork, and they like had an addicted, like, I mean, weird behavior from A to Z, not a question, but they also noted down everything in the most detail-oriented way. I know that they did that, so I thought like from there it must maybe still be a reason why our bureaucratic system is so detail-oriented and rule theme. I don't know, but I guess this has a longer history that I don't know. So
that was actually my first idea as well, like with the whole Nazi regime, but it actually started way earlier. It was a bit tricky to find out, but there is a first historic explanation from a BBC journalist called Joe Barr, and he linked the famous expression that kind of summarizes the German need for rules and order. There must be order. That's the impression. Ordnung muss sein in German. And that was first stated by Martin Luther, actually. And he wrote that in volume 67 of his text, Sämtliche Werke. But...
Wow. I mean, we still use that sentence today.
Yeah.
Like in schools or Ordnung muss sein is very clear for me. Like,
exactly. Or as a child, like I heard that often, I think.
Definitely.
So it's kind of part of German culture. And Luther certainly influenced Germany and the church in many ways.
A lot, yeah.
That maybe explains like the earliest occurrence of where that could come from. But there's not really much documentation of this phrase, like for centuries after Luther.
Also, how did it spread? I mean, like, how do you, it's a very pregnant sentence.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. But it's only a sentence, so it's not like really explains the whole culture around the idea.
So there's more, I guess.
So there's more. So my research goes on to Christina Burkhardt from the newspaper Deutsche Welle. She found some quite compelling historical evidence. So in the 1700s in Germany, Germany was actually divided into loose independent states.
Yeah.
That's where it becomes a bit historic, but I found it super interesting. So please stay with me.
So nerd mode is on now, yeah?
Yeah, and I'm not a history nerd at all, but it explains a lot, I think. So with all these loose independent states, the most powerful one was Prussia, or Preußen, as it's called in German, which spread across all northern territories of today's Germany and also into today's Poland. And by 1750, Prussia had developed a huge and quite efficient military power under the rule of Frederick the Great. And then they expanded its control to the south and actually unified the whole country under the German Empire in 1871.
The German Empire?
Yeah.
It sounds like the Roman Empire.
Yeah, it's kind of like after that.
God.
Because with this unification, the Prussian Empire also spread their bureaucratic systems and practices that were quite powerful because they were such a military power. And they actually strategically cultivated an actual catalog of values for civic servants and the military, including punctuality, a sense of duty and diligence, among many other things.
Interesting.
So actual and catalog of rules how to kind of be German or how to behave.
So funny that they are values, because I was talking to another friend a week ago and she also carries that value of punctuality. So if somebody's not showing up on time, that's really like personally offending her, and she's
Yeah.
German as well, so I think
Yeah.
it's interesting how we carry these values then over time.
Yeah, exactly. Like these were really values put in place, and they became known as the Prussian virtues or the
Okay.
preußische Tugenden in German. And slowly, years after years, they really became part of German culture. And that's why even today, they're so close to our hearts, and it's really a value that a lot of people hold, very close.
So summing that up, there was like a bunch of very like, I don't know, eager men who wanted to enlarge in our country.
Yeah.
And in order to stay powerful, they introduced a lot of like rules,
Yeah,
bureaucratic
exactly.
systems. But smart is that they instilled that in official functions.
Yeah,
So from
exactly.
there, you could spread it to the everyday people, so
Yeah.
to say. And that's like virtues like punctuality,
Yeah.
like what
And
else?
they made them virtues, not only rules. And that way it was, I think, very easy for people to take them on.
So it's a behavior you want to strive toward.
Yes, exactly.
Very smart.
In order to be this German empire that was then
Yeah.
seen as something great.
Yeah,
probably.
in order to keep it as well, the
Yeah.
way it is, in the way they envisioned it. you
Yeah,
know?
exactly. And then, of course, that became part of German culture. But the way that it became internationally known that way, or our image as Germans
Yeah.
became internationally known, was then starting with British tourists beginning to visit the Rhineland and this region and taking back kind of this image of this Prussian wealth and rules and order that was actually seen as something quite positive first, because they had like a tax-paid school system and good working like water management and stuff like that. So for tourists visiting, that was seen as something working quite well, and they spread this image more and more.
And to be honest, jumping to today, I think it still has very positive aspects of that's why we are a welfare social state.
That's
so
true,
we
yeah.
still rely on these systems in also a positive way.
Yeah.
Like forget the laminated rules in a vacation home. That's the weird side of
That's
it.
true.
But
There are
we
positive
still
sides.
have a positive side of that. And,
Yeah.
like others say, oh, but you live in Germany, to get a kid here is great because you
Yeah.
have so much support and you have such a good system around it.
Yeah, exactly. And German products are seen very highly in international business as well,
Except
like German
the
cars.
internet.
Yeah, exactly. But everything we produce, at least,
Yeah.
is regarded as very
Very
high
true.
quality. But there's also like some voices that say it's more a cliche that Germany really follows a lot of rules and we're so productive and so on. So there's actually a really interesting blog article from Nick Houghton in the blog 40% German. That's really for foreigners visiting Germany or moving to Germany,
Love it.
and kind of explaining the culture of this country.
This is what you get into when you visit Germany.
Yeah. And he explains a bit that this image of Germany being so keen on rules was also strengthened internationally because the US and Britain could then say Germany just follows rules, but we, on the other hand, we're more innovative. We maybe they are stuck in their efficient processes, but we're risk takers and innovators and do things differently. So that was also a way for them to kind of talk highly about themselves, while kind of talking down on this, on Germany producing a lot of products and being good in that regard. But yeah.
That makes perfect sense if you think about the US as a way younger country and nation from people from all over Europe. Like they had to distinguish themselves as well from that.
Yeah.
And maybe they found a new and different way to get very powerful through exploring and taking over land from others, like in a very different approach.
Yeah.
So kind of like they put it in a negative
Yeah,
light
exactly.
in their countries.
Yeah.
So that's why there was a backlash almost for Germany, because we were perceived as, they're just these efficient rule followers.
Yeah,
and we are
exactly.
wilder and more innovative than others.
Yeah, exactly. So it has
Interesting.
some benefits for us that for example, our cars, I think that's the prime example, is regarded as high quality because there are certain standards that we follow and so on.
And many industries, right?
Yeah.
Steel and like things like that. There's a lot of production industry, like productive.
Yeah. Yeah, but on the same time, we're kind of regarded as not innovative and kind of sticking too much to these rules. That was also interesting and probably helped to spread this image of Germany as very rule following internationally as well.
A history question. When roundabout did that happen now? Where are we in the time scale?
That I actually don't know. So I think that is anything after 1871 or like 1900s.
It must be then around industrialization and maybe a little bit after that. So early 19th century then.
Yeah, exactly.
20th century. Yeah. Okay.
But that's now enough from like history and
Let's
all
close that
timelines,
book.
because I'm already getting confused with times. And one last interesting thing I read from Maurice Frank from the Berlin newspaper is that nowadays often the opposite is true. For example, us living in Germany, I think we see that side of there are a lot of rules, but I also see that Germany, for example, is super sloppy and inefficient in a lot of things, like very bureaucratic, but
We're gonna link you the most funny ever video from a comedian about German efficiency in the show notes, because I think that sums up the real truth, especially in corporate environments. Like,
exactly.
Yeah,
or when you have to do taxes or anything like that.
Love it.
You mean from Daniel Ryan Spaulding?
Daniel Ryan Spaulding, best
It's
man.
amazing.
If you're
Let's
up for a
link that.
laugh, watch that.
Yeah. And yeah, I think that's a super valid point as well. And like Maurice says, where it comes from is that Germany has had this Prussian influence with a lot of rules that were effective maybe back in the days, but then it really failed to create simple and modern processes.
Yeah.
And he says that's due to these very powerful conservative parties that are very strong in Germany overall, or definitely in the last 10 years.
And especially in the southern part of the country, where a lot of these car manufacturers are also.
Exactly. So because of these more conservative parties being in power, it's why all these leftovers of old Prussian rules and processes are still kind of in place, and they can be felt by anyone who lives here and moves here. So it's not a modernization of these old rules that might have been quite efficient back in the days, but now they're just not, and we have to modernize and digitalize. All of these things don't happen because of a bit more conservatism in parties.
That makes so much sense. So that like it really reaches to today, and it shows how these conservative parties also want to hold on to that.
Yeah, exactly.
But then I think that's why people like
it was used back, or it was useful
used,
back
so
in the
let's
days.
preserve it, and that makes a lot of sense. But then, like looking at it from a global perspective, and more people also coming to Germany, Germans going abroad, also work relationship wise, we fall behind. Like I hear people coming here and say like, "Oh my God, you're way less efficient and quality driven than I thought about Germany." So I think that's really something that we stick to, and also us. I mean, I don't know about you, but I like to really distance myself from that. Like sometimes it's not nice to say when you travel, "Oh, I'm German." Like, "Oh, great, I'm German." Okay, so you're always on time, right?
Yeah, too strict, too uptight.
Exactly.
And not very modern.
Exactly.
I think that's the downside of the cliche or the image.
Interesting.
Yeah. In conclusion, the phrase "there must be order" or "Ordnung muss sein," that's pretty much at the core of the whole why Germany is so connected to order and rules, was first written by Martin Luther, but the real root of German focus on rules and order came from the powerful and bureaucratic Prussia, unifying the blue states in the German Empire in 1871, and with that spreading all their rules and bureaucracy and so on throughout Germany.
And applying it in industries, in governmental institutions, in
kind of putting it
our
as
virtues.
Values and virtues. Yeah, exactly. And after that, this image then really spread more and more internationally, also often to discredit Germany as less innovative than Britain and the US. and to explain the high production output of Germany. And so it became stronger and stronger as a cliche or an image. And then with quite strong conservative parties in Germany, this image hasn't changed really much. And yeah, there is indeed not a lot of risk-taking and rethinking of old rules and processes. That's why we can still feel it today, and the image goes on, and we're still known for our rules and order.
So everyone prepare for empty the dishwasher, otherwise you get a fine.
Exactly.
Super interesting.
Yeah.
And I thought we might conclude that episode with a fun fact that I researched about Germany as well, because I think one way to really, bring rules to the people is through traffic signs. If you think about it, like there's the traffic signs, they are everywhere. And actually Germany is apparently one of the countries worldwide with the most street and traffic signs out there. There's more than 500 officially registered signs.
Wow.
And that adds up to more than 20 million signs spread across the whole country. So there's 500 different signs for different instances, like the stop sign, the speed signs, like there's a ton of them.
Interesting. Even though we don't have a speed limit on the Autobahn.
We do in some areas we do. Like apparently the 120 kilometers per hour speed limit is the most is the sign that is out there the most. But I mean, I'm not sure. But that's one of them.
Yeah.
And again, funny enough, all that began in the 19th century when we started putting warning signs in front of railway crossings. Because before that we didn't even need these signs. But going from 19th century railway crossing, attention, there might be a train, to 20 million signs on German streets.
Wow.
That means like on average, every 28 meters, there is a traffic sign today on our streets.
Even on farmland, on average. Wow.
I mean, there's a lot of projects and initiatives in place to get rid of redundant signs across the country. So I feel like we might be in a shift from a rule-addicted, crazy country to a more, let's trust the people that they know how to handle that situation.
It's a slow process, but we hopefully get there.
I think we get there. Thank you. I learned so much today.
Yeah, thank you for listening and participating.
Love it.
Then, before we go, we also want to make some advertisement for our upcoming projects.
Yeah, so I mean, this is the first episode of our new We Wonder Why series, where we really strive to find out about, or ask ourselves questions about customs of specific countries. And we really enjoyed doing that with our home country, Germany, first. But we'll embark on our trip to South America, specifically Brazil, next week.
Yes.
And we can't wait to bring you some more, interesting news and history and background of these countries.
Yeah, exactly. So during the trip, we will release a magazine for each country that we visit, and also record continuous podcast episodes like this one today, where we really explore local customs and cultures that we get to know along the way. So make sure to follow us on Instagram under We Wonder Why, and also share this podcast with your friends to help us gain more visibility, so we can really spread this project further and reach a lot of people that might be interested in that.
Thank you then, and hear you from Brazil.
Yes, see you soon.
See you soon. That's it for this week with We Wonder Why. For more content on our magazine, podcast, and travels, follow us on Instagram. Stay curious and see you next time.